Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on how to build your own Icinga web module. In the last video we talked about how we can create controllers, how we would create views, and how these two components interact with each other. In this video we will talk about how to create documentation for your module, how to add configuration files, how to add third-party code to extend PHP's capabilities, and finally how to add translations to your module. First, let's have a look at the documentation. We can provide additional documentation to our module. By additional, I mean additional to the README we might have in a repository. Let's have a look. I can log in. And last time we created this training module. It just has a small hello world controller, does nothing special. We have a file list controller that lists the directory here and just gives us details on the files. I can click on it. It'll tell us how large this file is. You might have noticed, or you already know, the documentation menu item here. It provides developer style. It's nice to see how things would look if we would use them. We can have icons here, so these icons are available by default. We can just simply reference these in our modules. The module documentation is which we want to use now. So we want to provide our own documentation here in this list. And to do that, we simply create a doc directory. And within it, we can just now create markdown files. So let me just create a usage file, .md for markdown. And here I can just use markdown, let's say usage, and save and reload. And it appears. So this is this uses the description we have set in the module info. So you can see web module tutorial, and this is the web module tutorial. We can change this now just to see what's going on. Web tutorial module. Let's make it lowercase. So then it looks just like the other ones. So if we click on it now, we can see, oh, there's a usage file here. We can click on it and see this now opens the usage file. We can just create some more text. This is the training module, save and reload, and the text appears here. So this is nice because the user now has the documentation for each module within the web interface. So we don't have to go to a separate place, a README or something, or any other page. We can just create a documentation here, and all of our users can just look how our module works and what it provides for them. In order to see this documentation item here, you need to have the documentation module enabled. I think it is enabled by default. If not, simply enable it. So if you disable it, it disappears. If you enable it, there it is again. And yeah, that's basically it. Next, let's have a look at how we can create configuration for our module. So you might know that Icinga Web uses the etc Icinga web directory for its configuration, so authentication and everything else. But there's also the modules directory, which contains configuration for each module. So we can now create a training module here, and then just simply create a config.ini or ini, not actually sure. I think it stands for initialization. Don't quote me on that. And now we can create sections here. So, and then just, yeah, keys and values, basically. So let's just save that and exit. And now we want to access this data in our module. We do that by, for example, using our, let's just use the hello world controller. And now we want to get our configuration. We do this by using the controller's config method. Let's just store it in a config variable. and now we can simply access it by using the get method on this config object. So now we want to say we want to get the section and we want to get this entry. We don't have that yet. Let's see what happens. So let me just do a var dump here. And there you go, config. No, that's wrong. We want to see this one. So let's store it, entry, and save it. Looks good. And then just check out our hello world. And it says null here down at the bottom. Let me zoom in a bit. Because we don't have this entry. So I created the, I think I called it key entry. And now you see it changed into a string, and the string is called values because I set it to values. Now I can set whatever I want. Let's just say my config and save this and reload. And you see it now changed to the different string. You can also add new sections, different sections. You can load different config files. For example, if I want to use not the config.ini, I can say I want to load a special configuration, for example. So let's see what happens. Nothing, because we don't have that file. Let's simply create that file. Special. Say we got a special section here. And who is special? You are. Let's save that. And we have the special section and who is, what did I call it? Who is special? Let's save that and reload. And it works just as expected. So next, let's look at how we would use third-party code. We have already seen the use of code that Icinga Web provides, so the controller class, for example. But what if we want to use something that we have installed with Composer, for example? So I installed something, I want to use it here. So let's just import something which miraculously is already installed because Icinga Web ships with some third-party code already bundled. Let's see what third-party code. If we check out the training module and check out third-party libraries, you see that Icinga Web bundles third-party code in the third-party project or repository. And this is all the stuff which the various Icinga modules, the official Icinga modules use. So the LESS preprocessor, jQuery, the Guzzle HTTP client, and various other stuff, and also the UUID library, which I just imported. So if you would install anything else, you would simply install it in your directory via compose or in your PHP directory, and then just include it as you would include these guys. So with this, let's try it out. Let's just set, for example, let's overwrite the application and say this is now a UUID. Let's save and go. And yeah, you can see now each time I reload, it creates a new UUID. Yeah, imagine anything else. Like you can just import these guys and then just use them as is. However, it now makes sense to declare this as a requirement. What I mean by that is we now need to tell our users that we need this third-party code. So we might want to tell them, hey, you need this third-party library installed in order to use this module. So what we can do now is we can add this as a requirement in our modules.info. So let's do this. We want to add a requirement. So it requires a library. Which library? The Icinga PHP third-party library in this version. So let me save that and check out the modules page. And if I select my training module now, you can see the dependency now appearing here. So it now says, hey, you need this library in this version in order for me to do my job. Let's do something fun and just change this to something nonsensical. So now reload, and now we can see, oh, you have unmet dependencies and your module can't be enabled. Funny enough, we are already enabled, but if I disable it now and check it out, I can't enable it. So it'll prevent me from enabling a faulty module, but let's undo that. So let's undo that, save and reload. Now I can enable it and we can see our UIDs again. So it's important to do that because you need to, otherwise we would just get an error exception and the module can't function. So it's important to tell your users like what you need in order to do your job here. Let's have a small look at how other modules do that. Let's check out something official. Let's see. Let's take the Icinga notification web module and check out the module.info. And yeah, it also declares some requirements, the IPL, the Icinga PHP library, and the third-party library, same as we just did. You can also declare modules here. Let's have a look at how that works. So let's check out a community module, the Grafana module. And it requires the Icinga DB module to be active in this version or later. So this is important to tell your users what you need as a requirement in order to function. Finally, let's look at how we can ship translations for our module. So if we want to ship our module in different languages, we can do that. This is done by using a method called translate, which is provided by the Icinga PHP library. We will look at the library in detail later, but let's just look at how the translations would work. So let's use the Hello World controller, and let's just simply add a translation. Let's reuse this one here and just say we want to translate the string Hello World. So let's see what happens. Yeah, nothing happens. It'll just print out the string as is because we don't have any translations yet. So just for clarification, this method is provided by a trait, and it is this trait here. So we would use the Icinga PHP library and the internationalization. So you can add this method in any other code you would write. But we don't need it, the controller already has it, otherwise this wouldn't work. Now we need to translate this guy, so let's do that. We first need to enable the translation module. This will help us to develop translations. Let's enable it, should work, yes. And now we can simply use the CLI to create some boilerplate for us. So we can use the Icinga CLI translation module, and we want to refresh the translations for the module training. And specifically, we want to provide a German translation, right? So that has worked because we didn't get an error. So let's see. We now have an application local. We have a German translation here. Yeah. And as you can see, this uses PO files, which the underlying mechanism is the GNU getText util. So now let's just have a look at this. Let's just simply print it out. Yeah. So as you can see, it provided some boilerplate. Otherwise, we would have created this by hand, which is possible, but why would you do that? The translation module is very nice, and it'll just help us create this boilerplate. Right, so let's have a look at it. We can now see this string. It's already marked for translation, and we don't have a translation yet. So the string here is empty, and now we would add a translation here, but it automatically got detected. Let's try something else. Let's copy that and paste that and just say, I don't know, message, and say goodbye and save it, and then just run this function again, and now you can see it detected the second string in the controller and marked it here, and now we can start translating this. So now we need to create an MO file. So these PO files, which are human readable, are then compiled into MO files, which are machine readable. I will use the PO edit tool because I work on Linux here, but there are several tools for various operating systems. Let's open our new file, and we want to select PO file, and yeah, now we can see the strings here, so the goodbye and the hello world string. They don't have any German translations yet, so let's do that. Let's say tschüss, and let's say hallo Welt, and then save this. And now we can see, if we just check out the directory again, now it automatically created an MO file once I saved. So this is nice. Tools like this just compile it, and we are done. Let's verify it. We can just, let's check it out. Yeah, so PO edit just wrote the strings in here and compiled it into the MO file. And now if a user switches to German, they will be presented with the German strings. And you can do this for any other language. And yeah, you need to ship these files with your module then. So these need to be included in the repository for your module. Just for completeness, let's have a look at translate.icinga.com. So this is a nice overview of modules and how much they are translated in various languages. So if you want to contribute to these modules, contribute translations, that is always possible, and is a quick start to get into contributing to open source projects. Okay, this concludes this video. Next time we will have a closer look at the Icinga PHP library. Thanks for joining us. Leave a like and let us know which topics you want to see in the future. Bye.